Okay, welcome to the conditional sentences from Macdonald English. This is an introduction to conditionals. This is the first lesson in a series of 4 lessons aimed at giving you a better understanding of the conditional in English. Conditional sentences. They have a defined structure. A conditional sentence is composed of 2 parts. We have the if clause and we have the main clause. The example I'm going to give now is this. If I study the conditional, I will speak better English. So now we can see how the conditional works. We have 2 parts, the if clause and the main clause. Okay, today, the order of the 2 clauses is flexible. It's not important, but if the if clause comes first, it must be followed by a comma. If it rains, I'll stay at home. If we say this in reverse, we don't need to write the comma. I'll stay at home if it rains, with no comma. There are 4 types of conditional sentence. They're classified according to the degree of probability that they express. Each type of conditional sentence uses different tenses to show the difference in a degree of probability. We begin with the zero conditional. It's called a zero because there is 0 probability. It's something that's always true. And in this, which we're going to focus on today, we use if or when plus the present tense. Water boils if it reaches 100 degrees. And see, there is no comma in that example. We have a first conditional, which will be the next lesson, which is if or unless for the first clause, in the present with a future or a modal verb. If I study, I'll pass. We also have the second conditional, if with the past and then would and infinitive. If I studied, I would pass. And there's a third conditional, if with the past perfect and would have and the past perfect. If I had studied, I would have passed. You're going to study and you're going to pass. And today we're going to focus on the zero conditional. This conditional is used when the result will always happen. So if water reaches 100 degrees, it always boils. It's a fact. I'm talking in general, not about one particular situation. The result of the if clause is always the main clause. The if in this conditional can usually be replaced by when, without changing the meaning. So let's look at some zero conditionals. First of all, the tense. We use the present tense in both clauses. The example, if you heat water to 100 degrees C, it boils. If you pour oil into water, it floats. Everything is in the present tense. Remember, with the third person, to add the S. So we have present tense and present tense. To continue, the use of the zero conditional. We use it to talk about the universal truth. If you heat ice, it turns to water. It doesn't turn to milk, it always turns to water. We use it to talk about habits. If I see a spider, I get very scared. If I wake up early, I go back to sleep. It's a general habit that I have. Examples of if and when. If you heat ice, it melts. Ice melts if you heat it. Notice the comma is removed in the second example there. When you heat ice, it melts. Ice melts when you heat it. So the if clause and the when clause, the meaning is exactly the same. If it rains, the grass gets wet. The grass gets wet if it rains. When it rains, the grass gets wet. The grass gets wet when it rains. So they all mean the same thing, the 2 groups of 4 conditionals there. General truths. If you freeze water, it becomes a solid, ice. Plants die if they don't get enough water. If my husband has a cold, I usually catch it. I'm not married, it's just to another man, it's just an example. If public transport is efficient, people stop using their cars. It's a general truth. If you mix red and blue, you get purple. So these are general truths. We use the zero conditional. There's no probability, it can never change. We can also use the imperative with the zero conditional. Examples would be, if Bill phones, tell him to meet me at the cinema. Ask Pete if you're not sure what to do. If you want to come, call me before 5 o'clock. Meet me here if we get separated. So we can use the imperative in the zero conditional as well. Your turn. Complete with the zero conditional. You might want to pause the video here and complete these sentences because I'm going to move on to the answers very shortly. I'm going to change in 3, 2, 1. The answers, possible answers. If or when I wake up early, I go back to sleep. If or when I wake up late, I am late for work. If I spend too much at the shops, it makes me depressed. When I feel especially energetic, I work very hard. When I feel stressed, I need to relax. If I feel depressed, I walk in the country. And that's the zero conditional. I hope that's been a good introduction for you to the zero conditional. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.